Bless the Lord, O my soul, blessed art thou, Lord. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
This weekend has been a rather difficult time for me. It started with an individual that visited the monastery for the liturgy on Sunday, and he was someone that came late for the meal that we have in Tryphon after the liturgy. He was taking a nap in his car, and then when he did come, he was late, sat separately from everyone until I asked him to please join the others. And then at the end of the meal, when we had the final blessing, and everybody left, some went to Father Nicodemus's class in Orthodoxy in the library. I came into the trapeza, and this man was sitting there alone in the trapeza with a great big plate filled with food. And so I went up to him and I said, "You know, we eat communally here." And he just got very angry, and he stood up and he grabbed his plate and he headed for the kitchen. And I tried to say, "No, I'm not telling you not to eat. I'm just saying to share with us. Don't come late and don't linger on, but be with all of us when we are sharing this meal together." And but he stormed off and drove off in a huff. And I felt really bad about it. I felt like I was not being a good priest at that moment, that I had probably should have just let it be, but my motives were good, but obviously he was furious, and who knows what he feels about me now. And then at Vespers last night, which is Monday, which is our desert day, so we have the gate closed for the day, and we have a sign down there that says if the gate is closed, we are not open to visitors. And all of a sudden, at the end of the liturgy of the Vesper service, there is a woman here with a baby in her arms, and she's attending the service. And my first thought was, I hope she didn't do what someone did years ago, where they just pushed their car over through the gate and broke the gate, and it cost us $400 to repair. So I said, "Was the gate locked?" And she said, "Yes." Turned out she was a Russian. She didn't speak English, and so she really didn't understand what I was saying. And it turned out she parked her car right in front of the gate. So if there had been an emergency, there would have been a car stuck there. So all of this made me really irritated. And I remember saying to her, "You know, Mondays is our desert day. We are not open to visitors. And if the gate is closed, it means we are not receiving guests." And one of my monks kind of chewed me out later about it. He said, "Father, you know, you're being rude to her, you know." And it turned out that when Father Paul drove her down with her baby to her car, she had a whole trunk full of food and bottles of wine and so on that she was bringing to the monastery. She even brought these flowers here. And of course I found out all that later, and then I had a real difficult time going to sleep last night because I felt so guilty. I felt like I'm such a bad priest. Over the years, I have had, because there are so many people that read my blog and follow me on my Facebook and YouTube pages, or watch my YouTube videos, that tend to see me in one way and one way only. They see me as some sort of holy elder. And anyone that lives with me knows that's not the case. I struggle like everyone else. And I remember once I was flying back from New York from a church meeting in New York City, and this steward came up to me, and he said, "Are you Abbot Tryphon?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, I want to have a selfie with you. I follow you." And so he took this selfie. And I remember my late confessor, Father Andrew, asked me one day if I am ever filled with pride because so many people treat me as though I'm some holy elder. And I said, well, it's an interesting question. And the answer is no. I don't feel pride about all of this because I know myself only too well. And I know how far I fall from what God intends a priest to be like. I am a sinner like everyone else. And sometimes I feel like I'm one of the worst priests out there, and certainly one of the worst monks out there. And so there's hardly a day that goes by when I don't take a close look at myself and think, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm like I am. And I can't believe that there are people that honor me as though I'm some holy elder when I'm not. I remember when Mother Markella, who is known as a holy woman, the abbess of Life-Giving Spring Monastery in Dunlap, California, in front of her 40-some nuns during a trapeza, she stood up and she told everyone that she hadn't had any contact with her brother in 20 or 30 years in Greece. And she said, so I've decided that I'm going to replace him with Father Tryphon. He's now my brother. I refer to myself as her younger brother because I am assuming, and being a gentleman, I don't ask a woman her age, but I'm assuming that I'm older than her, but I know she's older in monasticism than I am. But I remember when she made that announcement and I thought, oh my gosh, how could she say that about me when she is surrounded by holy women and she knows elders in the Orthodox Church in Greece that are truly holy, and here I am. Why would she think that of me? The truth is that I am struggling to let God change me and take control of my heart like everyone else. And so when I write what I write, and when I make videos like I'm doing right now, it's with a desire to help other people in the journey, just as I have had people in my life, like my late spiritual father, Blessed Dimitri of Santa Rosa, help me and love me in spite of myself. And then I look at cases like I've just described and feel like I have fallen so short of the glory of God. And how many people have I scandalized by my behavior, like being inhospitable to the woman that gave us these flowers? How is that? I had a struggle last night. I finally emailed the man that had the big plate full of food, because it happened that one of my monks had his email address. So I emailed him about 2 a.m, telling him what I was really intending to say to him, making it clear that I wasn't asking him to walk away from his food or from the monastery. I was letting him know that I wanted him to celebrate a meal with all of us together collectively and not alone. Just like I asked him to come to the table with all the people and not sit alone, I didn't want him to be alone in the trapeza having seconds. It's important that we have this kind of fellowship. That's all I meant. But I guess it was my delivery that was not so good. So I'm like, a lot of times I struggle with that. In my pain that I've been suffering from sciatica and other issues that I've had with my heart, to be honest with you, there are many times that I wish, oh my gosh, we have more visitors. Oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with anybody. I remember when we first started building this monastery, and I had an image of someday with the name Tryphon, to having my cell in a tree house in the back part of our property in the forest with a little trail that would go up there, a hidden trail, so that nobody would know where I was and they couldn't see me. And I was even going to camouflage my tree house so that if any people looked up there, they wouldn't see it, and I could hide up there. And it's because there's this part of me, and I think it's common with lots of monastics, that there's a part of me that wants to be a hermit. And yet, at the same time, I know that there are so many people hurting. And I know that there are so many people who are seekers. And so when I have people visit this monastery who are seekers, who are not Orthodox, but are seekers, or those who are struggling with their orthodoxy, and they come to talk to me because they followed me on my blog or my videos, I know that I need to be available to them. And yet in my own selfishness, I want to be alone. I've had this experience over the years when I've been sitting in my study with someone who's come like that. And I find myself dragging my carcass over to meet with them because there's a monk here that's told me that there's somebody that really desperately wants to talk to you. And I walk in and I sit down in my chair and the person sits opposite me and I am drained, totally drained. I'm spent. I want to be alone. But it's those moments when I pray to God to give me the words for them. And God does give me the words. And then I find that not only are they listening, but I'm listening. And sometimes I'm astounded to hear what I'm saying. But in those moments, I know that it isn't me that is saying those words. It's God using this failure of a monk and a priest as a vehicle to speak these words of encouragement to people that come to visit. All of us have had experiences like that with priests like me. All of us have had experiences with bishops that seem rude or arrogant or aloof. But I think that it's important that each one of us think about that and think about, say, for instance, the bishop. I remember one time there were a group of priests at a conference in Nyack, New York, who were sending around a petition to have me made a bishop of Manhattan, and I heard about it. And then they all took me to a Chinese restaurant for dinner, and they didn't know I knew about this. But during the meal, I said, if you go through with this petition, we are in Manhattan. I will find a costume store, and I will rent a big bunny suit. And I will put it on, and I will hop into our cathedral. And all of you will never be trusted again with any of your opinions because you were recommending the man that hopped into the cathedral in a bunny suit to be a bishop. And of course, they immediately withdrew the petition, much to my relief, because if I have struggles with visitors and being a good monk, I can only imagine the failure I would be as a bishop. So I've never wanted to be a bishop. I will not be a bishop. I will put on a bunny suit before I'll be a bishop. But I think it's important with all this that I have said for us to remember that our bishops are struggling just like we are. And because of their position, it's easy for us to judge the bishops, sometimes harshly. Oh, he's so aloof. Oh, he's so imperial. I don't like him. I wish we had another man as our bishop. We do that for our parish priest as well. Like, oh, our priest is just, he's not available, and he has a temper. He gets angry. I've seen him get angry before, and I don't like it. And why don't we have a better priest? But in moments like that, each one of us needs to think about it. How is our struggle going to be all that God wants us to be? How many times have we fallen short of the glory of God? How many times have we failed to be the light of Christ to those around us? I woke up this morning and I was almost afraid to face my monks because I thought, gee, I failed them. In my behavior yesterday, I failed them. And so I actually thought about coming into the trapeza and prostrating before them as they were getting their morning coffee and asking them to forgive me. But then I thought, well, in my condition, they'd all have to come forth and help me get up off the floor. And then I thought, what if they don't want to get me up off the floor? And I'm left there for the day on the floor because of my sin and my shortcomings. So, there are times when not only are we called by God to be merciful to others, to be forgiving of the shortcomings of our priest or our bishop, we also need to have forgiveness for our own shortcomings, knowing that the Lord of mercies forgives us. All that it is required is that we say, Lord, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I have sinned, and I ask your forgiveness. Glory to God for all things.
Both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. Only begotten Son and immortal Word of God,